So, hello everyone, welcome to CivilPrep. So, this is a session on MentorQuest at the rate 500, where we will be discussing 500 questions from geography optional in live format. Okay, so this is one of the important part which we will see here. Uh, Many aspirants they have quite good knowledge with respect to geography optional or other subjects also, but because they are not doing ample of answer writing, adequate answer writing, they lag in whatever knowledge they have and putting it on the paper. Okay, so there is a skill which is required here to articulate the answer and write it on the paper. So with this initiative, that is MentorQuest at the rate 500, we will be looking at geography optional questions and answers. And this session, it is specific to one of the very important topic, that is perspectives in human geography. What happens? Perspective is one of the topic which helps us to develop, which helps us to understand the development of geography as a subject. Along with it, it also helps us to understand that what is the reality from the lens of the thinkers who have helped in the development of the geography. So here, putting on the lens, let's start this perspective theme and first question. So first question here we have today, that is, describe the chronological evolution of areal differentiation as a core principle in human geography. Okay, we can say that one of the previous year question was asked in 2023, that was explain the sequential development of areal differentiation as a fundamental concept in human geography. Okay, so this is we can see that the question is quite important here because it is asked as one of the theme in the areal differentiation in the previous year question part. Now, just take a few minutes, okay, try to write down the answer, try to gather the theorists, okay, who are associated with the answer, where we need to provide a chronological evolution of the areal differentiation, okay. Just take few minutes, then we'll start writing the answer. Now, friends, you can pause and write the answer. We'll start discussing with this answer here. Now, here we have certain keyword. Number one, the chronological evolution of areal differentiation as a core principle in human geography. Okay, so there have been certain paradigms, okay, paradigms with respect to the development of geography as a discipline. Okay, so there were certain various paradigms. So here we'll be seeing that there was areal differentiation. After areal differentiation, there was quantitative revolution. After quantitative revolution, we see that there was critical revolution. Now, after critical revolution, we have the paradigm of environment in the contemporary time. So we are talking here about the areal differentiation, And what is the chronological evolution here? So the concept of areal differentiation, it is one of the core principle in the human geography. It examines how the different regions they display a unique blend of physical and cultural characteristics. Okay, characteristics. So here we'll be seeing that there are certain foundations which who have helped in the development of human geography from the perspective of areal differentiation. So starting here with the initial part, we have Strabo. So Strabo in the ancient Greek philosopher who was among the first to document the distinct regions. Okay, who has documented distinct regions here. His writings emphasized that every part of the world has a unique combination of natural features and human interactions. Now, after this, we'll be saying that this has been more detailedly analyzed in the part of the regional uniqueness. Now, this is an important part with respect to the ancient phase. Okay, this is an important part from the ancient phase. Now, moving forward, we'll be looking at the 19th century revival. Under the 19th century revival, there are certain, we can say, certain turning points have been seen with respect to development of geography as a subject, where number one, the Alexander von Humboldt. He has played a very important role in the development of areal differentiation. He introduced the idea of interconnected natural phenomena. Okay, stressing that the diversity of nature's forces manifest in different spatial gradients. The natural forces, they manifest in different spatial gradients. Along with him, another important thinker here is Carl Ritter. Played very important role in the development of geographical discipline with respect to areal differentiation. He reinforced the notion that the relationship between man and nature. Now, here he argues that the human society actively shapes the characteristics of a region rather than merely adapting to its environmental constraints. So here he argued that the human society shapes the regions rather than just adapting to the environmental constraints. Okay, so these are the two important theorists, okay, who have helped in the development of areal differentiation during the revival phase. Now, when we look at the early 20th century, when we look at the early 20th century, here which is also moving towards a part of the classical phase to the modern phase. Here also we'll be seeing that there is one important, we can say, geographer, that is Hetner. Now, Hetner has advocated a very important approach here, which is called as chorological approach. This chorological approach, it has been very important in studying of spatial interrelationships as central to geography. With respect to central to geography. Along with him, there is another, we can say, thinker. He is Hartshorne. Hartshorne here will be saying that he has done his seminal work. The name is The Nature of Geography. Under his work, Hartshorne has argued that understanding areal differentiation was essential for grasping the distinctive characteristics of region. Areal differentiation, it is essential for grasping the distinctive character of region. Okay, so this is provided by Hartshorne here. Now, after Hartshorne, if we try to understand this particular aspect, we have next phase of the development of the areal differentiation, where an important role was played by Vidal through his approach of possibilism. Vidal has basically done a major shift which occurred with the introduction of possibilism. He challenged the deterministic view, and he argued that while the environmental sets certain limits, environment sets certain limits, okay, human creativity can overcome them. So this was one of the important part which was provided by Vidal. Vidal has given the concept of genre de vie or genre de wire, okay, where he has described the natural regions as space. Okay, so this space, which was a natural region, it basically depended on the human and environment relationship and how the human beings change the environment. Similarly, the environment also had the similar kind of effect over the human beings. So here we see that this perspective highlighted the development of a region which is not simply a product of natural conditions, but also of cultural and historical influences. Okay, that gives rise to the unique cultural landscape. And one cultural landscape, it was distinct from the other cultural landscapes here. So this was one of the very important fundamental concept which was provided by Vidal. Okay, when we look at the application of this concept, here this can be applied to Indo-Gangetic plains. Okay, where we see that the researchers have employed the idea of areal differentiation to assess how diverse factors contribute to the regional uniqueness. Here we'll be seeing that there are physical factors like soil, then climate, availability of water. Okay, these are certain factors here for the physical part. Also, human factors are quite important here. Human factors will be seeing that the type of agriculture practice, irrigation techniques, along with such certain cultural traditions. Okay, so this provides us one of the part where we are able to assess. Okay, I'll just write here case study. So this is the part of the case study. Okay, which helps us to understand the various aspect of the Indo-Gangetic plain. So thus by using the tools like geographical information system and remote sensing, geographical information system and remote sensing, the study it provides an actionable insights into how region specific strategies can optimize the agricultural productivity and sustainable development in the region. Okay, next we'll be going to how this integration of traditional theoretical framework with advanced geospatial technologies promises richer analysis here. So here we'll be seeing that the future of this areal differentiation, it is based on number one, enhancing regional planning. Number two, developing tailored strategies with respect to urban expansion. Then number three, adopting sustainable practices with respect to climate change. Okay, so this is one of the important part which is understood here. Now, what we see in the contemporary time, we have went through the areal differentiation phase. Then we have seen the phase of quantitative revolution. After this, we have seen the phase of critical revolution, where humanistic geography, behavioral geography, and radical approach or radical geography, they have emerged. But later on, they declined. And but what we will see here that the critical revolution, that is humanistic, behavioral, and radical approach, they saw the revival of areal differentiation. Okay, in the quantitative revolution, it was majorly based on systematic approach. Okay, but after 1970s, okay, this was 1950s where the QR rised, but 1970s it declined and the rise of critical revolution have occurred. So here there was the revival of areal differentiation again. After this, after the 1990s, here we'll be seeing that there was change of paradigm and there was environmentalism as the major paradigm. This has the component of both the quantitative revolution, that is systematic approach, plus areal differentiation, that is regional approach. Okay, so both these things have been seen in the era of environmentalism. So guys, this is one of the question we'll be seeing that, which is quite important from the perspective of geography optional. Okay, going to the next question. Critically analyze the theories of determinism and possibilism and discuss the importance of regional perspective. Okay, now looking at one of the PYQ on the same line, examine critically the concepts of determinism and possibilism. Bring out the significance of regional concept. This question was asked in 1994, and there are very high chances that the question which is based on similar lines can be asked in the contemporary time. Okay, so guys, just take 2 minutes, make the approach of the answer, then we'll discuss this question here. Friends, so let's back to this question. The question is critically analyze the theories of determinism and possibilism and discuss the importance of the regional perspective. So here we have two important, we can say, the aspects which are asked in question: theories of determinism and possibilism. And number two, the regional perspective and the importance of these two theories. Okay, so looking at the answer here, we will see that the debate between the determinism and possibilism has long shaped the human geographical inquiry. Now here we see that the determinism, it contends that the natural environment exerts a strong, inescapable influence on the human actions. That is, nature, it controls and limits human actions. While we'll be seeing this part here, the possibilism, it argues that humans are not mere the victims of nature. Okay, they are not merely the victims of nature, but they are active agents who modify their surrounding. So this part we see that this is the basic context of the determinism and possibilism. Now, when we look this from the regional perspective, it weaves together both these approaches to explain regional uniqueness. It takes both the approaches here and it tries to explain the regional uniqueness, okay, where we see that a very important role is being played by the coexistence of physical constraint and the human agencies. Or human actions. So this aspect here, it defines the regional uniqueness, okay, which covers the aspect of physical aspect as well as the human actions. So moving to the next part here, when we look at the determinism part, in the part of determinism, which says that the physical conditions such as climate, landform, resources, all these factors, they shape human behavior. Okay, they shape the human behavior. Along with this, it also helps in the development of society. Okay, so there we see that this is also explained by certain theorists like Redzel. So Redzel, he conceptualized the human societies as organisms. Okay, he has conceptualized the human societies as organisms, and these organisms they grow and they also adapt in direct relation to their environment. Thereby emphasizing that the physical setting largely determines the spatial organization. The physical settings, it largely determines the spatial or the societal organizations. So this was one of the important uh, perspective was given by Redsel. After Redsel, we'll be looking at another important theorist here is Alan Sample. Alan Sample has says that the idea of environmental influence, okay, under it, Sample argued that the climate conditions and geographic locations predominantly shape the cultural and societal characteristics of a civilization. That is, the climate plus geography or geographic location, it predominantly shapes the cultural and societal characteristics of civilization. So this is an important aspect which was given by Alan Sample. So here the core idea is that the nature imposes certain limitations that define the possible patterns of human life. However, this approach has been critiqued for its oversimplification. By underestimating the cultural, historical, and technological influences, strict determinism can ignore the capacity for innovation and adaptation. Thus, critics assert here that while the environment may set the stage, it is the human response to those conditions that truly shapes the outcome in a unique region. Now, the stance of possibilism can be seen here. When we look at the aspect of possibilism, it is contending that the environment offers a set of constraints or opportunities rather than a predetermined destiny. It sets constraint rather than setting a predetermined destiny. Okay, here we see that the perception is important perception is given by Vidal. So Vidal here has emphasized that while nature presents certain limitations, okay, nature presents certain limitations, the choices and cultural practices of human beings, the choices plus cultural practices of human beings, okay, they determine that how these possibilities are exploited. Okay, so according to this view, the environment can be seen as an advisor rather than a dictator of human action. So here, environment, it is acting as a role of advisor rather than dictator. So this was an important part which was provided by Vidal here. So what, according to this part, according to this perspective, it is seen that the possibilism, it champions the notion that human ingenuity, technological advancement, cultural traditions, human ingenuity, technological advancement, and cultural traditions, they enable societies, okay, enable societies to transcend natural constraints. Now, here we'll be seeing that this approach is not without criticism. Some people argue that possibilism may sometimes downplay the undeniable influence that severe physical conditions have on limiting human options. For example, working in an environment which is having a temperature of 50 degrees Celsius for a longer duration of time, it is not fit for the human beings. Similarly, water scarcity beyond a certain factor, it is also one of the limiting condition here. So this what we see that when we apply this whole part in the regional perspective. So under the regional perspective, here will be seeing that it serves as a bridge between the two theories. Okay, where the key contributions are being done by number one, Carl Ritter. So Carl Ritter, he was one of the pioneers who integrated both physical and human elements. Okay, physical plus human elements while defining the regional characteristics. Here we'll be seeing that he argued that the unique features of a region can only be fully understood by examining the interrelationship between the nature and society. Now, looking at the perception of another important theorist, that is Hartshorne. Hartshorne, in his work on areal differentiation, he refined the regional approach by emphasizing both intra-regional homogeneity and inter-regional homogeneity. Okay, inter-regional homogeneity and inter-regional heterogeneity. So this perspective allows the geographers to study areas in granular details, acknowledging that while deterministic forces may set the broad pattern, okay, they will set here the broad pattern, while the possibilistic adaptation it yield to the unique cultural and economic characteristics. Here we'll be seeing that all the four regions they have unique cultural and economic characteristic. Okay, so here if we take a case study of the Mediterranean region. So it reveals how similar climatic condition can lead to diverse cultural practices. Okay, there is similar climate, but diverse cultural practices are seen in the region, and which is shaped by historical trade plus technology plus societal choices. So here we'll be seeing that this regional approach not only enhances our theoretical understanding, but also informs practical policy making. The tailored strategies based on localized data, often derived from geographic information system and remote sensing, can address challenges such as urban planning, sustainable resource management, and climate adaptation in a very precise manner. So if we look at the way forward, we will see here that integrating the critical insights on both determinism and possibilism within a regional perspective provides a way for a holistic understanding of human environment interactions. Thus, in future, we can see here the interdisciplinary approaches, regional analysis, and dynamic dialogues, which will help in the development of both the paradigms with respect to the development of the regional approach here. Thus, concluding here, we will see determinism and possibilism offers opposing views on the influence of nature versus the human agency. Okay, when we will look at this part. Under the conclusion, we'll be seeing that the possibilism and determinism, they are having a contrasting view with respect to the nature versus humans with respect to their influence and actions. Thus, the regional perspective it integrates these insights to reveal the layered complexity of spatial diversity. Thus, this balanced framework, it remains essential for both the academic part and also the practical application in addressing the contemporary challenges with respect to sustainable development, food security versus nutrition security, etc. Okay, which will help in the sustainable development of human beings. So we can see here this is one of the question which is highlighting and addressing the perspective on the determinism and possibilism and the importance of the regional perspective integrating both of them. Okay, so guys, moving to the next part here. The next question, it is evaluate the assertion that environmentalism is experiencing a revival as a guiding paradigm in geographical studies. This is a very important question because a question is asked in the previous time in 2015 where it was asked there is a rejuvenation of environmentalism as a paradigm in geographical studies. Okay, so that was asked comment here. So just think on this question and we will then continue writing answer and discussion for this. Okay, friends. So let's get back to the question here. So question is evaluate the assertion that environmentalism is experiencing a revival as a guiding paradigm in geographical studies. Now, this question, if we look at the environmentalism is a paradigm which is undergoing a phase of revival. Okay, why it is undergoing the phase of revival? So here we see that when the critical revolution, it failed to become one of the it failed to provide the paradigms or the multi-paradigmic stage in the studies of geography. So here environment, it became one of the important phase there. So this is critical revolution and this is environmentalism. Now here we see that because of this, we'll be seeing that a renewed focus on environment amid the global crisis such as climate change. Okay, under this phase, the phase of climate change, biodiversity loss, then unsustainable development. Okay, now here the geographical studies have now again gained the environmental factor here. Okay, before we see that, the areal differentiation part. Okay, and before the areal differentiation, the environmental determinism. This was the major paradigm in the classical age. Okay, in the classical, during the classical and neoclassical age, then it was basically overcome by the possibilism ideology. Now, here we see that the evolution of the environmentalism has been seen in from the perspective of environmental determinism. Where historically the idea that the natural environment shapes the human society was given by certain theorists like Alan Sample, who provided a leading proponent for environmental determinism. Sample argued that climate and geographic conditions, they shape the cultural plus societal characteristics of civilizations. Okay, this was provided by Alan Sample. Then later on, Ellsworth Huntington. Huntington provided that the physical factors such as climate and terrain play a dominant role in determining societal prosperity and behavior. This was provided by Huntington. These early perspectives laid the groundwork for understanding the powerful influence of natural forces, despite being later critiqued for understanding human capacity for innovation. So, after this, what we see that there was a shift to possibilism. Plus, also here will be seeing that certain human agencies also. So there was a shift of paradigm here. Now here we'll be seeing that contrasting the strict determinism perspective, Vidal paved the way for the concept of possibilism. He posited that while the nature sets fundamental boundaries, human creativity, cultural practices, and historical context define how society interacts with and modify their surroundings. So here we see the nature sets boundaries, while human creativity, cultural practices, and historical context defines how societies they interact and modify their surroundings. Their surroundings. This shift marked a move from recognizing the bi-directional relationship between humans and environment, setting the stage for contemporary environmental thought. Then, in the contemporary time, we'll be seeing in the contemporary environmental perspective. In the modern time or modern age. Here, the modern revival in the environmentalism has built on the earlier debates by incorporating interdisciplinary insights and new methodologies. Several key theorists have significantly influenced this resurgence. So, theorists like Yi-Fu Tuan, one of the most important humanistic approach theorist, also he has also given certain aspects, that is the development of human beings, okay, the development of religion and the behavioral aspects is also provided here. So Tuan emphasized the deep emotional and cultural connection, the deep emotion and cultural connection people have with places, which was given under the sense of place. So his work broadened environmental discourse, highlighting how the perception of place it shapes the human identity and environmental policy. Secondly, here we have David Harvey. Now, David Harvey is a prominent figure in the political geography. Harvey has linked the dynamic of capitalism and urbanization. To the environmental change. His analysis reveals how the neoliberal policies plus industrial development plus industrial development has changed the stance and resulted into ecological degradation and urging a thinking of sustainability beyond a simple natural determinism. Okay, now together these theories they have enriched geographical studies by intertwining together the physical, cultural, and political dimensions of the environment, reinforcing a paradigm that is much about the human decision making as it is about the natural limitations. Okay, now if you look at a case study of environmental management in West Bengal. So here there is a compelling illustration that revived paradigm can be found in recent environmental management initiatives in West Bengal. So here the use of advanced GIS system along with remote sensing. Okay, this is done to monitor river dynamics, okay, track land use changes, and improve flood management. This can be seen here with this diagram. Okay, so this is the region of West Bengal. Here we have this river. Okay, so this is the Ganga River. This is the region of West Bengal. So here we see that these studies, they have integrated environmental science with the socio-economic analysis, reflecting the theoretical legacies of Sample, Huntington, and Blush, okay, or Vidal. The case of West Bengal, it demonstrates a revival of environmental approach. okay, environmental approach, not only in the academic inquiry, but also informing the practical region specific strategies. For the sustainable resource management. Okay, now if we look at the critical evaluation of this particular aspect, that is environmentalism. So here we will be analyzing that there are certain strengths and there are certain weaknesses and challenges of this paradigm. So if we look at the critical evaluation, here we have number one, interdisciplinary integration. That is, it is integrating the ecological science plus the cultural aspect plus the political aspect. Okay, plus here we'll be seeing that there are other also disciplines which are integrated here, providing a comprehensive understanding of human environment interaction. Next thing here we'll be seeing that is the technological advancement. Here the use of GIS, remote sensing, big data analysis. It has enriched the environmental studies, leading to actionable insights in urban planning and sustainable development. Okay. Apart from this, there are also certain policy relevances, which is resulting into the social equity and economic development. Okay, the social equity and economic development. When we look at the certain challenges or limitations here, so here we see that there is complexity of socio-environmental systems. Under this, we'll be seeing that there is a constant challenge in balancing deterministic environmental factors with human creativity and adaptation, which can sometimes be oversimplified in theoretical models, but in reality, it is very, very complex. Okay. Number two, the risk of greenwashing. There are certain companies, okay, there are certain, we can say, the institutions who provide the green solutions for certain environmental issues. But when we look deeper, it is actually providing us a space where the things are greener. But to build that green space, the fossil, or we can say the brown carbon, it has been used there. So therefore what we see that here, the greenwashing is one of the term, okay, which is trying to validate that yes, we are making a sustainable development. But when we look into the overall system, it is a superficial part, making uh, this environmental issue more deeper. Number three, there is also issue of integration. For example, the merging of the natural science with the socio-economic theories, it is quite difficult to integrate here. It is difficult to integrate both these aspects here. So this is the critical evaluation which we can see here. Now, when we look at the further part, the revival of the environmentalism, as we can see here for the part of conclusion, the revival of environmentalism, it is a guiding paradigm in the geographical studies, is well grounded in both the historical evolution and the contemporary practices, as we have seen in the previous part. So here, the various theorists have also provided an insight for the need for environmentalism as a guiding paradigm. So this renewed environmental factors not only enriches the theoretical discourse, but also equips geographers with tools to address urgent sustainability challenges, which is seen here in terms of the climate change, then the changes in the biomes, then the changes in the physiographical characteristics of organisms, that is flora and fauna, etc. So thus this paradigm, it is including the part of the society, also including the science of nature. Okay, so thus this is one of the important paradigm providing very important solution to the contemporary phase of the geographical problems or societal problems. So guys, this was one of the answer. Okay, this is one of the answer on the question. Okay, where we are looking at the assertion that environmentalism is experiencing a revival as a guiding paradigm in geographical studies. Okay, now moving to the next question. Here we have examine how positivism has influenced the transformation of paradigms within the field of geography. Okay, so if we look at one of the PYQ, discuss the impact of positivism in paradigm shift in geography asked in 2011. So guys, you can take 5 minutes and write an answer to this question. Okay, friends, so let's get back to the question. So the question is, examine how positivism has influenced the transformation of paradigms within the field of geography. Now, positivism is, what is positivism? First question. Do you guys know what is basically a positivism aspect? What is the positivism paradigm? Okay, so what is positivism? If we look at positivism, it is the inclusion of scientific temper and approach in the study of geography. Now, what we see here that we need to understand this from two perspectives. Number one, subjectivity and objectivity. When I am giving certain description of any phenomena, so that is from the perception that I am giving it. Okay, it is not based to any model, theory, or law. So therefore, this particular description or whatever the idea which is given by me, it will be a very subjective matter. Okay, it will be a subjective matter, and therefore it will be giving us certain datas which is done from the perception of an individual and not of the masses. While on the other side, when I take certain laws, it can be laws of nature, it can be law of any sciences, okay? So any laws or theories which are scientific in nature, okay? Now, these scientific laws, they are majorly accepted. Therefore, whatever the development will take place in this phase, it will be seen from the overall perspective of the society. So this is the difference where there is a perception which is developed from an individual person or from a societal person. So this will be seeing that this inclusion of scientific temper and approach in the geographical area, this resulted into the development of positivism in geographical studies. So it became from descriptive, the geographical studies, it became from descriptive, narrative, to a systematic, empirical, to spatial phenomena. Where there was use of quantification, observation, and scientific methods. There was use of quantification, observation, and scientific method. For the development or redefinition of geography as a spatial science. So this particular aspect, it gave geography as one of the redefinition as a spatial science, because this was majorly based on various location. So in the contemporary paradigms, with the commitment to the measurement and model building, here we see that this science, this positivism, it has played a quite transformation role here. Now, when we look at the development of positivism, here we see certain theorists. Number one, we have Auguste Comte. Now, Auguste Comte is widely recognized as the father of positivism. In his work, The Course of Positive Philosophy, okay, Comte insisted that scientific knowledge must be grounded in direct observation. Okay, scientific knowledge must be grounded in the direct observation and rejected the metaphysics in favor of positive facts. So this was one of the part which was provided by Auguste Comte. So he famously declared that the society must led by science. The reign of the positive shall replace that of metaphysical version. So his vision laid an intellectual foundation that resonated well beyond the confines of traditional natural philosophy. Then next theorist here was Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon, he provided a further advancement in his empirical tradition by advocating that knowledge is power. He provided that knowledge is power. The Bacon's methodology underscored the importance of systematic observation and experimental verification, setting the stage for a shift from speculative inquiry to measurable, testable phenomena. Okay, so he has given importance to the systematic observation and experimental verification. Now, third theorist here we have John Locke. John Locke echoed the idea of positivism with his assertion that no man's knowledge here can go beyond his experience. So he said that no man's knowledge can go beyond his experience. Locke's emphasis on empirical evidence. As the sole source of knowledge reinforced that the idea of geography as a discipline concerned with the observable world could and should adopt scientific methodology. Okay, now moving to the further part, there came an important shift here, that is the quantitative revolution. Quantitative revolution was one of the very important phase of the geographical studies, where it was majorly overtaken by the scientific data, scientific or we can say empirical data for the building of models. So here we'll be seeing that as geography in the mid evolved in the mid 20th century, the positivist principles paved the way for the quantitative revolution. This was basically based on the positivistic principles. Now, here we'll be seeing that number one, William Bunge. William Bunge was instrumental in this shift. In his influential work, The Theoretical Geography, Bunge argued passionately that geography must transcend from mere description to a systematic science. Mere description to a systematic science of spatial relationships. Thus, he championed the idea that the geography should be a space science, thereby arguing researchers to adopt rigorous mathematical and statistical tools. Following Bunge, another important theorist who came into the picture, he was Peter Haggett. Peter Haggett contributed significantly to the evolution of geographical paradigms with his work in locational analysis and development of the gravity model. Now, here we see that Haggett's approach was founded upon the belief that the spatial interaction could be expressed in quantitative terms. Okay, this can be expressed in quantitative terms. an approach that owes much to the positivist tenets. His famous perspective that the spatial interactions are not a matter of chance but can be modeled and predicted by empirical observations. This highlights the positivist commitment to measurable evidences. Apart from this, we also have Christeller. Christeller provided a breakthrough in the urban and economic geography. Okay, with his central place theory. He demonstrated that the distribution of settlements follows a predictable mathematical pattern. Christeller's work underscored or highlighted the positivist central promise that the complexities of human settlement and economic activity can be captured by universal laws. So here he has worked on the formation of universal laws, which was one of the proponent of the quantitative revolution and forming the theme of the positivistic principle. Okay, now in his framework, the functional logic of settlement distribution. Okay, here he became a paradigm of applying positivist method to the social geography. Okay, so this was one of the important part here. But as we move ahead, as we move ahead, here we'll be saying that there is certain criticism of this part also. Criticism of quantitative revolution and positivistic approach. Now, David Harvey, later known for the critical and Marxist reading of urban space. Okay, he was a critical revolution associated with critical revolution and Marxist approach that was radical. He began his career in the steeped in the empirical researches, tending that reflecting the positivist influence. Okay, here we see that his seminal texts like Explanation in Geography, Harvey reinforced the idea that urban phenomena must be understood through rigorous data analysis and spatial models here. Okay, but he also introduced here the part of the lack of humanistic, we can say, temper, because it became too much scientific in nature. So this was one of the criticism which was provided here. Though the models here it were based on the data, but the working was also quite criticized here. The next criticism was given by Yifu Tuan. So Yifu Tuan, he was the leading voice for the humanistic geography. Tuan's contended that positivism exclusive focus on quantifiable data. Okay, the work on quantifiable data, it neglects the lived experience of place. He argued that the emotional and symbolic dimensions of space are not merely measurable variables, but essential to understand human attachment and identity. Thus, what we see here that Tuan critic is encapsulated in his observation that the essence of place cannot be reduced to empirical measurements alone, urging a return to appreciating how people experience and imbibe space with the meaning. Now, next criticism here we have from Edward Ralph. Edward Ralph, in his work on place and placelessness, Ralph argued that positivism, with its abstraction and decontextualization, strips location of their unique identity. Here, Ralph emphasized that by treating space solely as a series of data points, positivist models risk rendering places or placeless, devoid of the qualities, memories, and experiences that constitute genuine human attachment here. This criticism highlights the contention that while positivism has advocated geographical theory through empirical position, its methods can be too reductionist, often sidelining the rich subjective laws of the human experience. Thus, making our conclusion here, the evolution of geography into a rigorous scientific discipline owes much to its positivistic paradigm. Thus, here we'll be seeing that the various theories have been provided here, which together, if we look at, their work has poured a legacy where the truth is best sought through evidence and reason. Okay. Now, today's geographers, if we look at, while often integrating post-positivist critics, continue to build on foundation where empirical rigor, okay, they are integrating the foundation where empirical rigor plus scientific inquiry is remaining an important part for the development of geography as a discipline or subject. So guys, this was an answer for the question. So question I can repeat here again. Examine how positivism has influenced the transformation of paradigms within the field of geography. So this is one part provided here. Okay, so guys, this is a session on live answer writing where you can write an answer and we can discuss that answer. So for case study session, we have also case study session. You can come to that session by joining the group. Okay, so guys, see you in the next session. All the best and take care.